join me in prayer, please? God of grace and God of glory and our God, again we gather on your word to inspire, to uplift, to challenge. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be found acceptable before you, our God, our strength, and our Redeemer. Amen. I thank my God every time I remember you. Constantly praying with joy in every one of my prayers for all of you, because of your sharing in the gospel from the first day until now. The Apostle Paul is expressing his gratitude to his friends in Philippi for their companionship in sharing the good news of Jesus Christ. His words were heartfelt, as are mine for you today. I do thank God for all of you and the many ways that we have been gathered together as the body of Christ in this place, sharing good news, sharing fellowship from the first day until now. I've been with you for 8 months now. Of course, it's fair to say that none of us expected my pastor to go this long, because I was called to be a supply preacher. Well, we never know what's going to happen, do we? Let's just say that a bump in the road of the pastoral search process allowed us to extend our relationship a little longer. And what this meant is that we've had more time to share some marvelous experiences together in worship, in fellowship, and in service. I confess I probably said it far too many times, but Good Sam is by far the most wonderful experience I've had in my over 30 years of ministry. I suspect that you may not realize just how special you are, due in large part to the fact that you really don't know how uniquely special you are, so you don't stand on that. You don't make a big deal about it. It's my guess that your humility, your hospitality, your commitment to this church, as well as service in and to the world beyond its doors, had to be a few of the very special reasons that Jen Day so focused on you. As you prepare to welcome her, as you prepare to write the next chapter in the life of this congregation, I want to leave you some words of encouragement. First, remember that Jen brings some very special gifts and talents to her ministry, with you, for you, and on your behalf. Those of you who served on the Pastoral Search Committee realize this when you've got acquainted with her. Now you as the congregation will get to know her personally and experience these gifts more fully. Jen is her own person with her own style. She is not Harold Brockus, or Sue Sherwood, or Dan Naden, or Herb Henry. She is the servant of God she was called to be. She's a person possessed of visions and goals which she has for herself, and probably for all of you, as you undertake the work that you do as pastor and congregation. As this new ministry unfolds, I encourage you to walk faithfully with Jen, trusting both her and the God who has brought you together. Make the commitment to follow her, even though at times the way may seem different or unfamiliar. She understands that she is called by God to be your guide, your pastor, and your teacher. Offer her your generous support and encouragement as she does this. But by the same token, I think it's okay to say that you have your own ideas, your own visions, your own goals for this church and what it might yet be. Keeping in mind that the ministry that you are all called to is mutual, and that not everything rests on Jen's shoulders. To use a somewhat trite and perhaps simplistic example, you and your pastor are in community. which by extension means common unity. She's called to be your pastor, with all the responsibilities that call entails. But it is as you journey and work together that you will experience the fullness of the possibilities that exist. Now, I'd be remiss, of course, if I didn't acknowledge that serving Christ as pastor or as congregation is not always a walk in the park. There will inevitably be challenges along the way. A church is nothing if not a gathering of different experiences and personalities. Good friends, Good Sam is no different from any other church. You will have differences of opinion among yourselves and perhaps with Jim. You'll have different understandings and perspectives about this ministry and what it should be about. When such situations arise, I encourage you to find the common ground that best serves Christ and His church. Like a good marriage, life will not always be 50-50. It could be 60-40, it could be 90-10, it could be somewhere in between. You all will not always be in the same place at the same time. So the question arises, where might you find a meeting place that achieves the most good? As you and Jen begin to share ministry and service to Christ together, there will be great joy that at last someone's in the office every day, that someone's going to be preaching more than 8 months, and that someone is going to be reaching out to the community. There likely will be an abundance of good feelings about all the work you undertake together. These are called honeymoon experiences. I've experienced them, and many pastors have. But remember that you are called to grow in faith and in service. Ministry, like daily life, does not remain static. There can always be something new just over the horizon. Some new experience, some new opportunity. With that in mind, I want to take you back to the stewardship program of last fall. Bev Kelly is where? Right here. Bev was in charge, and as you remember, she had us all reaching higher. I characterized the movements that went with the Gloria Estefan song as Christian calisthenics. Right? We're going to reach higher and higher. You all remember that. I want to remember that you and I are Christ's servants, and that we are indeed called to continue to reach higher in our service to Christ and to and for those for whom Christ lived, died, and was raised. We are all called to commit ourselves to this one man whom we claim as the center and foundation of our faith. Keep reaching. Keep exploring new horizons of what it means to be Christ's disciples. Do your very best to be the church and the people Christ calls you to be. Keep reaching higher. I have the greatest confidence that there is a bright future ahead for Good Sam Church. You have called a young, energetic, innovative, and creative pastor. And might I say that you have a wonderful music program. Gregory is creative and faithful, and his spirit lifts your worship experience to an entirely new level. There is no reason that I can see why together you cannot do wonderful ministry. I believe this. Now, on a slightly lighter note, many of you have already commented on my tie. I have worn colorful and creative ties in the past, but the one I'm wearing this morning has both a story and a lesson. In 1980, a movie entitled Blues Brothers came out, based on a skit that John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd did on Saturday Night Live. Now, some of us may not have seen this because it might have been past our bedtimes, but that whole skit grew into a movie. It's the story of Jake and Elwood, Blues' two low-level petty criminals and mischief makers. As Jake is being released from prison, his brother Elwood informs him that the Catholic orphanage where they were raised is running out of money and will probably close. They decide they've got to get their old rhythm and blues band back together, do a few gigs, raise some money for this nun that they affectionately call the Penguin because of her black and white garb. The central concept that mobilizes Jake and Elwood's commitment to saving the orphanage is that they are on a mission from God. That's my closing words to you today. Remember, you also are on a mission from God. Good Sam came into being to be a presence here on Park Boulevard. I used to tell confirmation students that a church is unlike any other building in the community, be it a bank, a school, or the corner convenience store. The church has its own unique identity, mission, and purpose. To be a community presence for peace, hope, joy, and redemption. We don't sell milk. We don't lend money. We don't pump gas. We share the good news of Jesus Christ, something that no other institution does. I charge you to remember that identity. You are on a mission from God. Embrace that idea. Live out of it. Serve Christ through it. And finally, of course, on a more personal note, I do want to thank you for your hospitality and embrace these past few months. Joanna and I are both clear that if it were possible, we would be members of this church. Alas, we are not and cannot. After a reasonable amount of time, we may pay you a visit from time to time. But for now, it is important to leave space for you to begin what I know and what I believe will be an exciting time of ministry with your new pastor, Jen Dixon. So confident in that hope, and from my heart, I say, may God bless you all greatly in the good work you are doing